We are back at it.
You expect to not get your teeth kicked in on your home field by Tulsa!
Champions of the Big 12.
This is not the 1980s OSU.
Zack Robinson, a lot of time going deep for Des Bryant. He's open. Diving catch. Touchdown, Oklahoma State.
We are back at it. Welcome back to another edition of the Pistols Firing Podcast. I'm Carson Cunningham, joined as always by Colby Powell. Colby, how you doing on this Friday? We got Arizona, OSU to talk about. A lot of coaching news with the defensive coordinator being fired, Chad Weiberg on the coaching search. Plenty to get to. How you doing on this Friday?
Good. It's been a good week, yeah. A lot of hot weather. We are not into fall yet, despite the fact that it's October. So got some golf playing this weekend in Tulsa. Going to watch some football. I started Kendrick Bourne in a fantasy league last night. So, yeah, everything's going well.
Everything's coming up Colby. I mean, that's unreal luck to start Kendrick Bourne. He goes over like 100 yards. I didn't even see how that game ended up. I went to bed, but the fantasy gods were smiling upon you.
Yes, they were. I've got CeeDee Lamb out with injury. I've got Rashee Rice waiting for him to come back from suspension. I've got Bucky Irving out with injury. So I'm a little decimated. I've got bye weeks. So I'm like, you know what? I'm throwing Kendrick Bourne in. A little shower narrative between Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne from their days in New England. And it worked out for me. So hopefully good things will continue happening for me on the golf course, with my teams on the football field, all the good things. Wishing them into existence this weekend.
Yeah, all good things. Maybe some good vibes for Oklahoma State football as well as they go on the road to Tucson. We'll talk about that. We'll pick the game. We'll make our uniform predictions. But first, let's hear from Chris's University Spirit, your one-stop Cowboy shop. Be sure to shop at chrisuniversityspirit.com. All day, every day, free standard shipping on orders over $75. Nobody wants to pay shipping. I hate paying shipping. I won't pay shipping. I won't do it. If you make me pay for shipping, I ain't ordering. So get you enough gear there to get that free shipping. And it seems like nowadays everyone wants you to pay like $35-$40 for a t-shirt. Not the case at Chris's. They have some reasonably priced shirts, what you want to wear out to the tailgate and to the games. You also want to support local Stillwater businesses like Chris has been in Stillwater a very, very long time. So we appreciate them sponsoring the show. Get you a pennant. I like one of those pennants. I need to get one of those for my wall back here. Got my wife's artwork in my my little makeshift office here. I like the little wrestling Pete on the flag too. So we appreciate Chris's sponsoring the podcast as always. So, Colby, like I said, lots to get to. We got Chad Weiberg talking about the coaching search. And, he did an interview with Dave Hunsaker right after the week of Mike Gundy's firing, where it was basically the video that Mike Gundy usually does. And then Weiberg later on this week did the Mike Gundy radio show. And it was really an opportunity for him to kind of lay out his plan, lay out his thought process. And I think he did a very good job doing so. But that first interview he did with Dave, he mentioned the word experience and how that mitigates risk. And people really latched on to the word experience, Colby, when it comes to one Zack Robinson. We all know he has not coached in college, has not been a head coach, all of those things. But on his interview this week, he the experience factor with the fit factor. He mentioned there's a lot of home run hires that haven't worked out because for whatever reason that coach was not a fit, whether that's the recruiting landscape in that area, the university itself, a lot of factors going into a successful head coach. But he was very sure to add the word fit in there, Colby, because look, there's a lot of great coaches. I know GJ Kinney is high on the list. I think I'm going to do a video on kind of ranking or grading the potential coaching hires for Oklahoma State a little later on, maybe this weekend. But a lot of big names, a lot of really, I've been really impressed, Colby, with the overall list of names. But what did you make of Chad Weiberg's comments and kind of dialing back the experience factor and honing in on fit as well?
Yeah, I think we're all hanging on every word Chad says right now with this coaching search. This is a big deal, and everybody's going to be tuned into it. We obviously have not gone through this in a long time. When Les Miles left, it was pretty quick and easy transition. You hired the offensive coordinator. You weren't as big of a job at that point, and things kind of went smoothly. And now, 20 years later, we're going through this big coaching search. And the thing that is weird about this one is we've got, 2 months to sit here and stew on it, maybe longer to sit here and stew on it before we're really going to know anything. Chad is telling us things without telling us things. He's not ruling anyone out. He's not saying you had to have been a head coach. He's not saying you had to have been an alum. He's not saying we're looking for somebody who's coached at the highest levels of football, even if it wasn't a head coach. He's basically leaving the door open for Oklahoma State to make any possible decision, down to a G.J. Kinney, up to a Zack Robinson, everything in between. You get on social media or message boards, you can find anything you want on social media or message boards about who the next head coach is going to be. I saw something about Lincoln Riley earlier, as if Lincoln Riley's coming to Stillwater, Oklahoma. So you can find anything on the internet. I would caution people to take a breath, pause for a second. We can try to read between the lines on what Chad's telling us, but we're not going to know for a while who this hire is going to be. I think you and I still think that it is a very real possibility that it is Zack Robinson. But there's steam for G.J. Kinney. There's steam for Colin Klein. There's steam for other guys. There are other good candidates for this job. So using the search firm, I think, is probably a good thing for something that's going to drag out this long, the chaos of it all. I also found it really interesting that he talked about the internal workings of the program and how they're taking this opportunity in between head coaches to make sure that they have all of their processes dialed in internally, so that somebody can basically come in and hit the ground running. So there are things going on behind closed doors over these next couple of months, more so than just looking for the next head coach, to make sure that Oklahoma State, from a program level, fundamentally is set up to have success when the new guy comes in and takes over.
Yeah, holistically, that's the best way to approach it. And look, what I gather is, and I said this in December, so that I'm not latching on to what the national people are now finally reporting nationally, that the boosters want Zack Robinson. Like that's who they want. And so it's going to be this really interesting case study for an athletic director, which I know Chad really likes Zack too. If they could not have worked things out with Mike Gundy, as I reported in December, Zack was going to be the coach. Now, they did have some interest in G.J. Kinney all the way back then, based on what I had heard too. So they like G.J. Kinney a lot. They love Zack. But the case study is intriguing in that, do you go hire the best coach? Maybe that's a G.J. Kinney. Maybe that's Alex Golish, who you like a lot, and there's a lot of reasons to like him too. He looks like an up-and-coming name that will get a big job soon. Or do you get a guy who can raise the Brinks truck worth of funding? Because as you look at Texas Tech, they've got the same coach, but they look like a completely different football program now that they've infused all that money in NIL. So if you're Chad, Colby, how do you balance that? Do you just take the bag, take the money, and support the boosters' decision? Because ultimately, you're the one that makes this decision, and ultimately, you're the one that's going to have to answer for this decision. Even if all the boosters want Zack and they pay all the money and it doesn't work out, like, you're going to get the blame. So how do you even balance that with that many forces tugging at you, so to speak?
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, Chad Weiberg's career is going to be defined by this hire. I don't think that that's hyperbole. Like, you have to get this hire right. He talked more with Dave about conference realignment and about how they don't know what conference they're going to be in 5 years. I saw a weird little nugget the other day. Oklahoma State and Colorado have non-conference games scheduled in 2036 and 2037, a home and home, and both schools have agreed to leave those on the schedule as non-conference games because there's every possibility that 11 and 12 years from now, they're no longer in the same conference. So this is a big, big deal for Chad Weiberg, obviously, to get this right. I think that he will talk to the biggest of the big boosters to see where they're at in terms of financial support, regardless of a hire. Is the money going to be the same regardless of a hire, or does the money only flow with a particular hire? That matters in terms of getting off to a good start, in terms of continued success. The money helps you win. I don't know if you saw the report that Oklahoma State's roster this year, according to sources, is roughly about a $12 to $14 million roster. Texas Tech is third in the nation with a $28 million roster this year in terms of NIL funds, which ranks them at number 3 in the country. So Oklahoma State probably very much in the middle of the pack at 12 to 14 million. Not getting middle of the pack results, obviously. So the money is a big factor. If if you're Chad and you fall in love with a candidate who's not Zack, and I'll just use G.J. Kinney as the example. Don't know if this can be the guy. But let's say you absolutely fall in love with G.J. Kinney, and then you have two scenarios. You find out, yes, the money is all in, make the best hire. If you're wowed by this guy, go get him. All the money is there. Or he's certain that G.J. Kinney's his guy, but then he's starting to get some things in his ear. The money might not be there. You might have to work with, a little bit lesser funds, kind of what you've had. The money may not be there. It's a difficult decision. It's why athletic director is a hard job. It's why you make big money to do that job. This is a hard decision. He's got a lot of factors to weigh. We're going to have to trust that whatever decision he makes, he has enough information about what's going on behind the scenes and what's happening with the money that he'll be able to make the right call.
It's a big call. Hopefully it's the right one. And yeah, you're right. We're going to be talking about this for a long time because I don't think they're going to be making a hire, anytime soon, at least publicly. Maybe behind closed doors. We'll have to see. And I did think it was interesting. Did you see Raheem Morris, the coach of the Atlanta Falcons, is already being asked questions about Zack? I mean, obviously when an Ian Rappaport comes out, a very, very well-respected NFL reporter comes out and reports that Zack would be one of the leading candidates. Of course, the local media there in Atlanta is going to ask him about it, and I thought his answer was like really enlightening. It was really something that I think Mike Gundy could have said many, many years. He's like, good for him. We want people to want our guys. Like that means we're doing well, which is all you and I have ever talked about when it comes to hiring coordinators and certainly hiring this next head coach. So the Falcons don't seem to mind the distraction because they put up some points last week. I know everyone was up in arms about them getting shut out against the Carolina Panthers. I think you cautioned everyone that the sample size was so small. Can people pump the brakes on Zack not knowing what he's doing now?
Carson, I think we should do this every week. I think every week we should decide whether it is okay or not okay to hire Zack based on how the Falcons performed that Sunday. I think that would be a fun game to play all season to just drive ourselves mad. Well, this week they only averaged 4.2 yards per play. Can't hire Zack. No, it's just so goofy to do that stuff on a game-by-game situation. I did not see that Raheem Morris was getting asked questions about that. I can imagine that could be a little bit distracting, and I'm sure that Raheem Morris has sat in his office with Zack Robinson, and I bet they've talked about this. I don't think that these are things that you just let linger out there. I bet that they've sat down and talked about this. I would guess that Zack would have told his head coach something along the lines of, I am fully committed to you and to this team for this season, and I want to make this a special year and do the absolute best I can, but I would be lying if I said I had no interest in taking the head coaching job at my alma mater. I don't know if that job will be offered to me. I don't know if I'll end up taking it, but I can assure you it will not distract me from my duties as the offensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, that's the only thing you can say if you're Zack. You're committed to your team now, you might get a job offer. So, yeah, that's something that Raheem Morris and the Falcons are going to have to deal with. But, yes, it's going to be fun, Carson. All season, every week, we're deciding whether to hire Zack based on how the Falcons do. And they're on bye this week, so he's got 2 weeks of being hireable.
2 weeks, yeah. Isn't Drake London hurt?
Drake London is hurt-ish, but they're on bye. So hopefully, theoretically, he'll be good to go after the bye.
Well, it's fascinating, and I do think my opinion on it is this is a money game now. Like, as much as I've said, and it's true that OSU has money, that they're not some poor G5 level university athletic department, I do think the pull of how much money Zack can bring to the table with the boosters and on his own. Like I reported back in December, Zack had a plan and he knew the right phone numbers to call to see that plan through. And as I mentioned with you last week as well, like that's job requirement 1A to 1B coaching the team is raising money. I mentioned, what Steve Lutz has been able to do. That's already paid dividends with Jalen Montanati. We all know what David Taylor's been doing, just crushing it in recruiting and crushing it as a force of personality. He has been out in the community. I know several people he's met and has followed up with them, like via text, like wants them to come out to the duels, and those people have bought tickets. Like, that's how it's done. That's how you are the face of a program. And so he's crushing it. And I wanted to expand a little on JC Hoyt, the job she's done as the coach of OSU women's basketball. And look, women's basketball is not, as we know, the money driver. They don't pack Gallagher-Iba Arena. But what she's been really sharp, and she's just got such a great personality and an infectious personality, is she gets in a lot of doors that matter and wins over not only whomever has the money, wins over the family, wins over everybody, and gets them to come to the games and support the program and do all the things necessary. That's what Chad Weiberg wants to see. And I think that's ultimately, when he interviews these coaches, it's going to go well beyond football, well beyond recruiting. It's going to be about relationship building. How much of a relationship builder are you? Because that's one thing I think if you want to knock Mike Gundy for, is he was not that. And he won enough games to where he didn't care about it and didn't want to do it. And that was fine for a long time. He did a great job coaching the football team. But in today's day and age with NIL, you have to do those things.
Yeah, you do, and it's the above and beyond stuff that we've talked about. I don't have to continue hammering home with that. I think our listeners kind of get it, where you have to be as a college football head coach now, and just kind of all of the hats that you have to spin, all the plates that you have to spin. I guess I should say I was mixing up my metaphors there. All the plates that you have to spin when you're a college football head coach. You're a fundraiser, you're a relationship builder, you're a CEO, you're responsible for game plans throughout the week, you're responsible for decisions on game day, you're responsible for personnel decisions. Like, it's a lot to be a college football head coach. It's the reason that the college football head coaches are the highest paid state employees in probably every state in the nation. So, yeah, it's a hard job. You're well compensated to do it. The hours are long. It's difficult. I imagine it's very rewarding at times, very frustrating at others, but it kind of is what it is. So I'm still Team Zack, but we'll see where this thing goes. If it ends up being a Kenny, a Klein, a Golish, somebody like that, then we'll do a total deep dive. Maybe even, if we're lucky, get the next head coach on this show. And yeah, I'll be excited for the next era of Oklahoma State football, regardless who the hire is. I still like the idea of Zack. That's my personal preference.
Yeah. I mean, I prefer Zack for a lot of reasons, mainly because I know the job he would do, and then all the obvious reasons of who he is and all the things that he brings to the table, and not just like, and I've mentioned that labor on it, but he coached in the NFL. That's where all these players want to end up, and that's where this model has gone, college football. So adding that NFL element to me is not a detriment. It's a strength. So I definitely would go for Zack. You could sign me up for GJ Kinney. I think he's a hell of a coach. I think he's very well liked by the decision makers in Stillwater. He's done it, albeit at a lower level, but he is certainly on the trajectory of becoming a major Power 4 level head coach. Alex Golish, I said, he just fits the bill of like an SEC head coach. I could see him coaching there very soon, and unless Oklahoma State were to hire him. So he's on that path too. So a lot of great options, which you always worry about when you're making a head coaching change. Sometimes you have to settle somewhat on a hire, but I don't think they're going to be doing that. So, but the current head coach, the interim coach, Doug Meacham, Big Meach, swung the axe, Colby. We were all wondering about the OSU defense. How could it possibly be worse than last year? It really has been to this point. And I questioned after the game, who even makes this decision? Is it Doug Meacham? Is it Chad Weiberg? Is it Rob Glass, since he's handling a lot of the football operations these days? But I did have some insight on that. And Chad Weiberg's made it clear to Doug Meacham and the coaching staff that he wants to make a bowl game, whatever it takes. We want to make a bowl game. That's your job, and your job depends on it. And I think there were conversations about that. Could it continue on the way it was with Todd Grantham as the defensive coordinator to make that happen? I think the answer clearly was a resounding no. And I do think there's reasons for that. Obviously, the product on the field. And I think if you're Doug Meacham and your livelihood, your job depends on this, you didn't hire Todd Grantham. You don't know Todd Grantham. You worked with him for, the first part of this season. But him and Clint Bowen go back to the days they both worked at Kansas together, clearly have an established coaching relationship there. And if you're Doug Meacham and you're watching your defense just get shellacked, you're like, I don't know Todd Grantham. I don't really understand his principles. I don't understand what he's calling over there. But I want my guy to call the plays if my butt's on the line. And I think Chad Weiberg said, whatever you want to do, let's do it. And that's how he came to this decision.
Yeah, look, he didn't comment directly on the firing of Todd Grantham, but I think he more or less told us about Todd Grantham and the contrast between him and Clint Bowen with this quote about Bowen. He said he's such a great guy, and I think he's a player's coach. I think the players feel like he cares, and I think the players feel like he's in it to get the best out of them. Like, that's a subtweet at Todd Grantham. It just is. Clint Bowen cares for the players. They think he's here to get the best out of them. Look, I don't know Todd Grantham. His stay in Stillwater was obviously very short. Just a cup of coffee for Todd Grantham. But what a disastrous, bitter, harsh cup of coffee it was. This defense is a nightmare. Guys just running wide open into space. The wheel routes last week. And look, Bowen's got his work cut out for him. Guys are getting in the portal. You've got almost no safeties left. Defensive tackle hops in the portal. Like, it's going to be difficult for Oklahoma State. I've got those names. David Kabongo hopped in this week. That was a tough one. Dylan Smith was a tough one. 2023 Bedlam hero with the interception and the stop on Drake Stoops on fourth down where he read that like a book. That was a tough one for Dylan Smith to hop in. DeAndre Boykins, another safety, hops in the portal. I'm sure we'll talk about him when we talk about Rachetti Jones here in a few minutes. But, yeah, Clint Bowen's going to have his work cut out for him. But like you said, Meacham has to rely on his guys to go out and try to win some games this year. And we talked about it on Sunday. Grantham always felt like a good old boys hire that Nick Saban recommended to Mike Gundy. He came in as a guy who hadn't called plays in, 4 or 5 years. He was close to being fired as the defensive line coach for the New Orleans Saints. Might not have made it through the offseason down in New Orleans with a new head coach and a new regime down there. And then he comes into Oklahoma State and absolutely falls on his face for all of September. Like, yeah, this was a totally reasonable, totally justified firing, that makes all the sense in the world. Zero controversy at all about this Todd Grantham firing.
I'm glad you brought up those quotes because where my mind was going as you were reading them was how much Doug Meacham harps on the word fun. Let's have fun, like play loose. Let's have fun. Sounds to me like Todd Grantham wasn't much fun to play for. And so all those reasons, and I think sometimes too, we factor in coaching and schematics and the product on the field, and we don't factor in that these are people and these are human beings, and the fact that it might not be working out as much from your schemes as your personality. And that's why hiring is so important. So that all makes total sense to me. And it just kind of continues the downward trend ever since Jim Knowles left Stillwater. It's the 5th defensive coordinator they've now had in 5 seasons. Jim Knowles, Derek Mason, Brian Nardo for 2 seasons. That felt like 1 season as well. And then Todd Grantham, now Clint Bowen. So we'll see what Clint Bowen can do. I mean, they're only one direction to go up from here. They're giving up 35 points per game. That's the worst in the Big 12. They're near the bottom of every statistical category you can think of. So we'll see if a new voice can help them there. I don't know if they're gonna have their work cut out for them, but we shall see. Let's get to what did I have next? Oh yeah, Rachetti Jones made the news. Rachetti Jones has been suspended indefinitely for an altercation on the sidelines with Boykins, the safety Boykins, who is now DeAndre Boykins on the sideline during Saturday's game against Baylor. Boykins has since basically been dismissed from the program, and he has entered the transfer portal. So he's gone. Rachetti suspended indefinitely. And I want to say this. Rachetti Jones was probably, besides Todd Monken on that 2011 football team and Brandon Whedon, like he was right there on my favorite people. Jamie Blatnick would be in that category too. That 2011 team had so much personality in addition to just being how great they were. And Rachetti was one of my favorite people to talk to. Just an infectious smile, great guy to deal with and talk to. One of my favorite players ever, frankly. You know, he was a very high-profile recruit coming out of Texas. I think he was on he might have been on like a TV show or some sort of video was documenting his recruitment and stuff. He's just a force of personality, and now he's been in player development at Oklahoma State after teaching in high school. And so I don't think they should get rid of Rachetti. He's suspended indefinitely. And I think if you put yourself in Rachetti Jones's shoes, he's playing on a Big 12 championship level defense, and he's watching Oklahoma State defense and the standard that him and all of those guys from the 2011 team set onto 2021. That defense, too, probably takes a lot of pride in it. He's probably in their ear saying, what are you doing out there? Get in position, make a tackle, quit tackling like scared. So I can see how an altercation would happen. And when you're in his role, you're expected to be able to coach hard and yell at players and things like that. And clearly, DeAndre Boykins wasn't having it, and he's gone.
Carson, I don't know what was said. I've searched far and wide for video. I've searched far and wide for anyone who might know anything about what was said between Rachetti Jones and DeAndre Boykins. Obviously, it was pretty intense. One guy winds up in the other portal. One guy winds up in the portal, and the other guy winds up suspended indefinitely. But you're going to have a really hard time finding too many Oklahoma State fans, or maybe a single Oklahoma State fan, who's going to side with DeAndre Boykins in this matter. As far as I think the entire Oklahoma State community is concerned, DeAndre Boykins, good luck. Good luck to you. Hope things go well. This fan base is Team Rachetti Jones. Again, don't know what was said. An indefinite suspension. Look, indefinite could be 2 weeks. He could be back for homecoming. We don't know. Indefinite could be through the rest of the season and then see if the next head coach wants to keep him on staff. We don't know. But Rachetti's Q rating is pretty high among the Oklahoma State faithful. As I was searching for video or quotes or anything of what happened between him and Boykins, I saw the highlight of his scoop and score in 2011 where he kind of bobbled it across the goal line and then snatched it up in the end zone to put Oklahoma State up by 30 or whatever it was. So, yeah, look, I would guess that something Rachetti said crossed the line if he's suspended indefinitely. Should that cost him his job and lead to a firing? Without knowing what was said, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that this is probably an appropriate punishment and hopefully back sooner rather than later for Rachetti. Because like I said, I think Oklahoma State fans love some Rachetti Jones. And like you said, I would imagine – he had some frustration boil over from having been one of the first guys to come through with a good defense at Oklahoma State to set a standard and then just see what the product has been on the field the last 2 years and just the last 4 weeks. So sounds like there was a blow up. Hopefully calmer heads will prevail and Rachetti Jones can get back to work at some point.
Yeah, and I think they will. I think suspension means, hey, we didn't like that at all, so you're going to be suspended for a little while, and hopefully he can work his way back. I think that would be best for Rachetti, certainly, and I think with Oklahoma State as well. He's a guy that I think a lot of those players can learn from. He's been through it. They do need kind of a young voice that's been in their shoes to really get through to them sometimes. I think he can certainly fill that role, but he is suspended. Okay, let's get to Brewster Consulting Group. The Pistols Firing Podcast is brought to you by brought to you by Brewster Consulting Group. Do any of these sound familiar at your company? Our processes are manual and inefficient with no documentation. Our data reporting takes forever. Let me make sure our Brewster is running there. Yes, it is. We hear all about the hype about AI, but have no clue what it actually means for our business, or your project runs always over time and over budget. If so, talk with our friends at Brewster Consulting Group. They help build organizations run like well-oiled machines, clear processes, reliable data and reporting, and technology that actually works for you. They've helped local clients like the Tulsa International Airport and Medify. They've also delivered solutions for large international enterprises like DP World. Even better, they're founded and ran by a proud OSU alum and season ticket holder. Learn more about them at brewsterconsulting.com or learn more about their methodologies by connecting with them at Brewster Consulting Group on LinkedIn or YouTube. So appreciate Brewster being with us as always, Colby. Let's get to our uniform picks here. You know, I can't ever remember a time where Oklahoma State would be wearing either orange or black jerseys instead of white on the road, but that's the situation we have here. Arizona smartly, I think more schools should do this when the first month or two of the season, wearing white at home. So that kind of opens up the floodgates for our uniform predictions. Which way are you leaning here? First off, I really like the look, the orange black look looked pretty good last week. That's a combination they had not worn before, which is super rare. They feels like they've worn every combination possible. I think our uniform expert, Justin Southwell, tweeted that I think the last one remaining is white, black, orange, which I think would look kind of sick personally. But what'd you make of last week's, and what's your prediction this week?
Yeah, I try to lean on Southwell a little bit on these things and see what he's looking at. The whites for Arizona threw me because I was kind of prepared to have the free space with the whites this weekend and then go from there. I was prepared to go with like a black, white, black, something like that, just a really clean road look. It's going to be 92 degrees and sunny in Tucson tomorrow. They're going to be playing this game at 2 o'clock. It's going to be miserably hot on that field. I don't think Oklahoma State is going to don any black. It doesn't make sense to just cook your brains in black helmets. So I'm going to go orange shirts, white helmets, and is it too much white with Arizona wearing the white shirts for us to go white helmets, white pants? I don't think it is because they could go with like a red helmet, red pants, something of that nature. So I'm going to go white, orange, white for Oklahoma State, and I'll take cursive Cowboys on the helmet. Can't hear you. Turn your mic on.
They're wearing red, white, white, supposedly.
Red,
so
white, white.
I don't know if that influences your decision or not, but I'm going to go with that in mind. I think they might just counter it. I'm going to go white, orange, orange, kind of an old school Des Bryant against Nebraska look. Like I mentioned on this show earlier this season, that was like stop the presses. They're wearing orange pants. Oh my God, this is so awesome. Now we got every week. So I'll go white, orange, orange. They haven't worn Patriot Pete yet. I'm going to go Patriot Pete on the helmet, which I like a lot. That's probably the best version of Pete. I didn't like what I call Little Bo Pete, just the pistols, just the Pistol Pete head. That's kind of small. I prefer like the gargantuan Pete personally, just personal preference. But yeah, I'll go white, orange, orange with Patriot Pete. Do you like that combo?
I do. I don't like it as much as the white, orange, white. For some reason, whenever the shirt and the pants are the same with a different helmet, it always, I don't know, it just doesn't look as clean and as sharp to me. Like I either like just an all black, all white, all orange look. I'm hugely in favor of that. Or I like the helmet and the pants to match and be contrasted with the shirt. So.
My bad. Sorry, I was looking up something while you were talking. Yeah, I mean, I like the tricolor on the road. If you got to wear a white jersey, there's not a whole lot you can do there. So I like kind of mixing it up with the helmet and pants. But overall, the unis have been pretty good so far. I'm thrilled they wore something they hadn't worn before. So maybe we'll see something we haven't seen yet on the road. I'm not sure what, although it's just a home combo. So maybe they'll bust out the Southwell thing of white, orange, black. I don't know. That would look kind of crazy playing in Arizona with that much orange, white, and black, all three school colors.
So it'd be white, orange, black.
Let's get to our game preview here and make our predictions, Colby. I guess let's just talk about the game here at first. I mean, I do think Oklahoma State found something, did they not, with offense? Doug Meacham really just a total indictment on what they've been doing offensively for years now. Not only with formations, but schemes. Got the running backs involved. Trent Howland looked like RB1 in terms of running between the tackles. I think him and Rodney Fields complement each other very well to where they've had a lot of success running the football, not as much passing. But maybe the addition of the Sam Jackson wrinkle at quarterback, and he was ripping it. He's got a live arm. I really like the ball coming out of his hand. So they've added some wrinkles here, but to me, it's incumbent on Zane Flores to take a step here. You know, another road game did not go well at Oregon, as we all know, but he's had a lot more experience now. Can he step up and make the throws necessary to extend drives? Because as I mentioned last show, that seems to be where the drives stall out, is if they get into third and medium to third and long, and he's got to thread a needle. It just hasn't been happening on a frequent basis. And maybe Meacham can help him with that, with play calling. But to me, Colby, I really, win, lose, or draw, I want to see a big step from Zane Flores because, you know, I get Wes Lunt vibes going out to Arizona. I remember he threw for, I think he threw for over like 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, but also like 3 interceptions in that blowout loss they had against Arizona. Arizona was a much better football program back then, mind you. But, you know, going on the road, it's a big step for a young quarterback. So I want to see him really just show some progression here when they face Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that would be best case scenario. Lunt threw for 436 in that game, by the way. I looked it up. I knew it was north of 400. He threw for 436 in a 59-38 loss in 2012 after beating Savannah State 84-0 to open the season. Just looking back at it was Walsh, Lunt,
School Big 12 game there.
Several Walshes, a Lunt, and then Chelfs to close out the season. That 2012 season, 7-5, 8-5, you beat Purdue 58-14 down in Dallas in the bowl game. That season was absolute chaos. The 51-48 overtime loss to OU. The 2012 season was on acid. Good memories. Carson, this Arizona game, I want to see something from Zane Flores, but I'm not looking at Zane Flores as like my key point to this game. I think we're going to see a very similar Zane Flores to what we saw against Baylor last week. So I think that's still going to require Doug Meacham to do some things with Sam Jackson. I think they can totally take the training wheels off of Zane Flores and just let him play. I think worrying about him getting hurt at this point, like we don't need to do that. We don't need to worry about him getting hurt at this point. He's just got to go play football. If something happens, Sam Jackson, he's good enough. Let him get out there and run it. It's fine. It'll be fine. What's the worst thing that can happen? You're already one of the worst teams in the country. Go let him play football. Carson, what I'm looking at is week one under Clint Bowen. You lose a few guys, but do you get any semblance of like just guys being in the right space, not giving up so many explosive plays, easy touchdowns, making the opponent earn it? Oklahoma State right now ranks dead last in the Big 12 in passing defense, rushing defense, total defense, scoring defense, last in the league on opponent third down conversion percentage, opponent fourth down conversion percentage, and tied for last in red zone conversion percentage. This defense is historically, horrifically bad. Can Clint Bowen in 5 days come in and get what is left of the defense? No Dylan Smith, no David Kabongo. Defensive tackle's name slips my mind. Can he come in and get these guys in a situation to go out and play against a decent Arizona offense with Noah Fafita, a quarterback who's been around for a few years? They've got the Texas State transfer at running back who's been having a great start to his season on the ground. So that's the big question to me is, can Oklahoma State keep them sub 40? Sub 500 yards, sub 40. I know I'm not setting a very high bar there, but the bar is quite literally a historically bad defense. So, that's the big takeaway for me on Saturday, what I'm really going to be watching for. Cowboy fans, what you should be watching for is Wolf Corporation. You should turn to Wolf Corporation to sell or lease your commercial property. They are Oklahoma's trusted commercial real estate listing brokerage since 2010. Their experienced team specializes in showcasing your retail, office, or industrial space to the right buyers and tenants across the state. Based right here in Oklahoma, they deliver results with local expertise. Visit them at wolfcorporation.com. That's WULF corporation.com, or call 405-308-3480 today. Go Pokes. Carson, your thoughts on Clint Bowen's defense as it'll be 5 days into his tenure as interim DC? Do we expect to see something totally revitalized like what we saw last week with the offense, or do you think it's harder to do on that side of the ball?
I want to say it's easier to do on offense, but as I really wrap my mind around it, I don't think it is. I do think he can coach them up on a wheel route. For some reason, they could not cover a wheel route the first few weeks of the season. I do think he'll bring a steadiness to the defense because we all know Grantham was very hyperactive and all or nothing. So I do think he'll provide stability, at least initially. Now, my question is, can they cover anyone? Do they have the talent? Which is alarming because I think Pete Nakos reported that OSU's roster costs $12 to $14 million. Texas Tech's up there in the $25 million range. But where's that $12 to $14 million at? Because we're not seeing it on the field in terms of defense, and the offense struggled too. I don't mean to make one game out of Doug Meacham as if the offense is just completely resolved. But no, I do think he's got a ton of experience, long time coordinator, long-time coach, and his experience is on the back end. I always kind of like my defensive coordinators to come from the safety/secondary area. Bob Stoops came from the secondary. I believe Gary Patterson was a secondary guru. A lot of the great defensive coordinators over history have started on the back end of the defense and worked their way up to coordinator. So I like that level of experience from him. I just don't know how much impact he can make in 1 week. But as we saw with Doug Meacham, he made a massive impact, and there's only one direction to go, and that's clearly up. So I like his experience, albeit at Kansas when they were really bad. I certainly understand all those things, but oftentimes when you're in a place like that in the state of that program, there's not only so much a coach can do, and maybe that situation he's in now. But I like the move of bringing Bowen in there to run the defense. I really do.
Yeah, I think so too. As far as who was on staff, who could do it, like you said, I like somebody who's worked with defensive backs in the secondary because Carson, a big part of the issue with this defense, and again, I don't know if he can fix this in a week. We might still see a couple of these tomorrow afternoon. But, God, the wheel routes last week and the plays across the middle of the field, the consecutive drives using the same play from the 10-yard line to get a guy wide open right behind linebackers. Like, just stuff where guys are wide open. I don't know if that's eye discipline. I don't know if it's the coverage scheme. Guys think they're supposed to be in man and they're in zone. I don't know what it is, Carson. But when you see guys running that wide open, like, to me, that's coaching. Like, I can't sit here and put that on 19, 20, and 21-year-olds that they're just making all these mistakes. That is coaching when guys are running that wide open. So can that be fixed in 5 days? Probably not. We're probably still going to see a 40-burger and 500 yards from Arizona. But can you start to make some changes that could maybe pay off against Houston, Cincinnati, UCF, Kansas State? Carson, there are winnable games left on this schedule. Some of these games, some of these opponents are not as difficult as they may have appeared prior to the season. UCF, disaster. Kansas State, disaster. Cincinnati is what Cincinnati is. Does Haas Haney come back? We don't know. That's where a chunk of that $12 to $14 million is sitting. A chunk of that $12 to $14 million got a Jones fracture in its foot after 1 quarter of the season. So, I don't know what happens this weekend, but I like moving Bowen over to that spot, and hopefully Oklahoma State can do enough to continue to give us hope that there are some more games to be won this season. I just don't think the first conference road start of Zane Flores' career is where we see it.
No, and Arizona's very good defensively. They're not great offensively, so that's a really tough challenge for Oklahoma State in that offense to really put up points on the road with Zane Flores against a defense. I think they're 19th in the country in points per game given up, points allowed. So we've been going to Boone Pickens Stadium for our score predictions, and I want to get yours here in just 1 second. But let's go to Arizona Stadium here. Let's see here. There we go. Yeah, that looks pretty sharp. I got your prediction up there, Colby. Let's actually take that away real quick, and I'm going to put up the injury report listed out and questionable for Oklahoma State. This is the out list. Dwayne Lofton's out. Haas Haney, Louis Canepa, Markel Samuel at offensive line, Martrail Lopez at receiver, Deshaun Brown at D end. Another big loss there. I mean, he's probably going to be on the shelf for a while. Tight end Oscar Hammond out as well again. Questionable for Oklahoma State, Freddie Brock. Josh Ford, that's one to watch come pregame warmups. Taj McCoy and Jaleel Johnson. Frustrating to see Jaleel out again, too, a key contributor on the defensive line. For Arizona, questionable. They got a receiver out, but no major news to report from Arizona. They actually have more players out than Oklahoma State, but I don't claim to know their roster ins and outs. But all right, Colby, that's the injury report. Let's get to your score prediction.
Yeah, Carson, I think we're going to see something somewhat similar to what we saw against Baylor last week. I think this is an Oklahoma State team playing with pride, playing hard for a head coach, an interim head coach, and now hopefully a DC who are making the players feel like something can be salvaged from this season and like they can play some good football and win some games. I don't think it's going to happen in terms of winning this game, but I think we will continue to have hope after this game. So I've got a 41-24 in favor of Arizona. I think Oklahoma State hangs around for a while. Arizona pulls away late. I think it's even possible that this is like a 10-point game at some point in the fourth quarter, and then Arizona scores. I think they're probably a better team. They certainly know how to win a little bit better. They won their first 3 games before getting smacked in Ames last week. So, yeah, I don't think Oklahoma State's going to win this game, Carson. I said they were going to win 2 more this season. I don't know when I'm going to predict those. It's going to be tough for me to do that at any point on the road until I see some sort of pulse from this team on the road. The only thing that we saw was Eugene, and I don't even know how you grade that. I don't even know how we grade Zane. I'm pretty much 1 grade into grading Zane at this point. I'm just throwing out the non-con and grading his conference performances. So we'll see what they look like tomorrow in Tucson, but I just have to say, Carson, I'm really excited to watch the game, to see what the coaches come up with, to see if this team can improve. And I'm pleased with all the changes over the last couple of weeks because as an Oklahoma State fan to my core, I feel like it's really given me a reason to be re-energized to watch this team and see what they can make out of this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think every single week is going to be kind of a surprise. I mean, because I think just with a new coaching staff taking over, it's going to take them some time to really establish how they do things. And Doug Meacham was able to do that fantastically after 1 week or less than a week. He had 4 days, 5 days. So we'll see now that he has had more time, what else he can come up with. And I did see people again on Twitter saying Carson, he didn't put all these plays in the week of. Doug Meacham basically said he drew them up that week, a lot of those trick plays, basically on a bar napkin is what he said. So, yes, he did. Those plays were not in the Mike Gundy offense, trust me. Let's go to my score prediction. Let's go back to Arizona Stadium here. Looking sharp. I want to do the fly-in here. Let me refresh that. There we go. Okay, so my score prediction is going to be 38-14, similar to yours. Less points for Oklahoma State because, again, as you can see there on the graphic, OSU is 128th in the country in points per game, and that's factoring in last week when they actually had a pulse offensively. So I do think that I only give Arizona 38 because I do think Clint Bowen, they'll get that boost from him, that steadiness, his experience level in college. That's another thing Todd Grantham didn't have over the last 4 years. He wasn't even in the college game. Just think to how much offense has evolved over that time. So I do think Bowen will give us a bit of a spark early for Oklahoma State's defense. But as we know, as we've seen for years and years at Oklahoma State, it's an ebb and flow game. The defense has to help the offense, but the offense really is going to have to help the defense here. If they're going 3 and out a bunch in that Arizona heat, this 38-point total can get much higher. But I'm going to give some respect to Clint Bowen and think he kind of rallies them, but then just not enough offense, not enough first downs. And I think we leave this game questioning, should you just go to Sam Jackson full time? I haven't seen enough yet from Zane Flores for that question to go away. And I think it's going to be interesting too, Colby, now that they've had more time to prepare. How much more do we see Sam Jackson? I was a proponent of him finishing that first half drive. I'm a proponent of him. If he gets the chains moving, keep him out there. I think that's a wrinkle I think Arizona definitely has had to prepare for this week, and I'm curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly an interesting take. We need to see something from Zane. Again, I struggle, Carson, and I go back and forth with, okay, is he not any good? You know, that's a question that we have to be asking. Is he not any good, not good enough to play at this level, be the starting quarterback of a team that's winning games in the Big 12? Or do we throw the first 3 games out? We figure your first start's at home against Baylor with a new coach for 4 days, and now we see what he looks like. We've got a couple more weeks, I think, on Zane to assess and figure out what he's looking like. I'd like to see something better, certainly, at Arizona than what we saw against Baylor. I know it's going to be more difficult on the road, but, yeah, he needs to continue to improve because I did like what I saw from Sam Jackson, and I think Doug Meacham, I think he does want to make a bowl game. I think he wants everybody out there to see him take over this program and lead them to some sort of resurgent season after being the worst team in college football. So if it's not working with Zane, I don't think that I think he has enough of a leash where he has a chance to develop into a quarterback over the next couple of weeks, but I don't think he has so much leash that if he continues to play the exact same way he's been playing the first month of the season over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I don't think the leash is so long that he just automatically gets the rest of the season if the results aren't there.
Totally agree. I mean, it's out there. It's been the goal is very understood. We'll put it that way in Stillwater. Go make a bowl game. Pull out all the stops. Do what you got to do. And I think Doug Meacham knows the stakes. And I think Doug Meacham's not afraid to pull a quarterback. I mean, heck, he's the one that put Sam Jackson out there in the first place. So I don't think he'll hesitate, Colby, if Zane's struggling. I do think we could see a lot more Sam Jackson. So that's really fun. It sure is. It sure is nice to have options. We didn't think we would have any options after Haas Haney was injured, but I really liked what I've seen from Sam Jackson, and I do think that's kind of sitting out there in terms of the transfer portal is we're 1 game away, I believe, from or I guess transfer portal's open now, so it's gonna be curious to see who stays, who goes as this season plays out. There's going to be a lot of attention on Haas Haney. Will he sit out, enter the transfer portal? Will he stay? There's a lot to be determined there. First off, he's got to get healthy, and then we'll find out later on in the season if he's going to play again at Oklahoma State. Because if he does, I do think that lifts the ceiling of the offense. And I know we only saw him for a couple drives against UT Martin, but you and I really liked what we saw, and we didn't jump to any conclusions about him being Johnny Manziel or anything. But I think you and I and everyone watching knows he's probably the best option at quarterback.
Yeah, I think so. We know what we saw in that first quarter. We know what Oklahoma State's offense has looked like for the last 2 years without him, and then what it looked like in 2.5 drives with him. So, yeah, I think we would feel pretty confident about Haas Haney coming back. Just to clarify the rule, the portal stays open for 30 days after a coach is fired. Mike Gundy was fired 10 days ago. So the portal is open for another 20 days, but the 4-game redshirt rule is still just a 4-game redshirt rule. So if you play in that 5th game, you do lose the red shirt there. So, yeah, we'll see what that means for Oklahoma State moving forward. Also, Carson, I mentioned that 10 days number. I'll reiterate, I'm disappointed. Some people probably don't care. I'm disappointed that he hasn't put out a statement for the fans. I mean, 20 years of good stuff, even longer than that. I mean, he was an assistant. He was the quarterback. I get it. It's painful right now. Putting out a statement's the easiest thing in the world to do. So I understand some people don't care about that, but I'm very disappointed that we have not heard anything from the most successful, longest tenured, best head coach in the history of Oklahoma State football.
I think it's a fair opinion. I mean, look, if you want to play devil's advocate, you could say, hey, people process things differently, and he doesn't owe anyone anything. I'm not going to argue that point, I guess, but perception's reality. And the perception by not even saying a word is that you're bitter and you're upset, or, you know, there's reasons to go out of your way not to put out just a, hey, thanking the fans, been a great ride, all those things. But I don't know, that I think silence speaks volumes, at least to me. So maybe he'll put something out as the season progresses. But I think it'd be really cool if he said, hey, I'm going to be at the game Saturday, next home game. I'm going to go do the Orange Power cheer, and I want every seat in that stadium filled for Doug Meacham. He deserves your support. Why can't his message be about everyone getting behind Doug Meacham? That's his guy. They played together. They've coached together on Mike Gundy's first staff. He obviously brought him here as the offensive coordinator for this season. I think that'd be really cool, and I think that would win over a lot of people in Stillwater and really just kind of start the healing process, so to speak, don't you?
Yes and no. I mean, that would be cool. I think that there are probably some wounds that are still a little bit too fresh for him to be out leading the chant. It's why my criticism stops at not releasing a statement, because I just think it's the easiest possible thing to do. It's like it's the absolute least that you can do, I think, if you're Mike Gundy. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I would like Mike Gundy to come back and lead the chant at some point. I don't think it's quite time yet. If he were to release a statement, I think he could certainly include something in there about Coach Meacham. But he's going to do it on his time, and he's going to do what he wants to do. He does things the Gundy way. So when something does come across, I'm sure we'll all be eager to read it. But yeah, again, that's just my personal opinion. I understand some people aren't going to care about that. There's probably even somebody, driving down the road listening to this in their car thinking, are you kidding me? They just fired the guy and you want him to come out and thank everybody? I get it. There's probably not going to be a ton of agreement on this one, probably a 50-50 split, I would guess, amongst the fan base. I'm just in the 50 that would like to hear from him.
Well, and I would not expect him to lead the Orange Power chant. I do think that would optically, nationally, people would be like, what? Is he on the sideline cheering him on now after he got fired? Obviously that wouldn't happen. But my overall message of like just thanking everyone, throw support behind Doug Meacham, rally behind him, I think would be a nice thing to say. So look, he can do whatever he wants, but I do think the silence speaks volumes, as I said. So Colby, appreciate it. 2:00 kick on Saturday. We got a day game, so everyone's evenings will be free. So we appreciate you joining me, and we'll get back with you after the game. I assume you'll be tied up with your golf trip, but maybe we'll get back with you on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know about it. Might be Monday. It might be Monday this week. So that's entirely my fault whenever you don't see this podcast pop up in your feeds at your normal appointed time on midday on Sunday. That's my fault. But as soon as we are able to get back together, we will get back together. So great stuff, Carson. Hope everyone enjoys the game tomorrow. Hope it's competitive. Hope Oklahoma State plays well, continues to give us some hope moving forward. Great stuff as always. Appreciate everyone listening. Go Pokes.
We are back at it.
You expect to not get your teeth kicked in on your home field by Tulsa!
Champions of the Big 12.
This is not the 1980s OSU.
Zack Robinson, a lot of time going deep for Des Bryant. He's open.